This is a bit of a meta video, so just this lovely art by Sam Smith will be displayed. If you've been following my blog for a few months, you'll no doubt realize that while I tend to write about whatever I want to write about, I generally write reviews of stuff. Usually games, and I'd like to expand it to movies. But I'm not really sure how I know how to evaluate a medium that I spend so little time in. I spend my life absorbed in manga, anime, and video games, so I know those quite well. If I did eventually start reviewing movies, I would probably review them like I do anime. But that's a topic for another day. Today, I wanted to talk about my review process, particularly for games. So, what is it that makes a game good? Simple. Is it fun? That's probably it. Time to go home, folks. Nah, there's more. So I look for a myriad of things in games. The first thing I look for, other than whether or not it's fun, usually depends on the game and what it's marketed as. See, it'd be unfair for me to evaluate a roguelike as an RPG because they're two fundamentally different types of games. In a roguelike, the gameplay is usually designed to be endlessly playable, and it's almost arcade-like in how far can I go in nature. While an RPG is designed as a wish fulfillment game, in which you either choose or are given a role to play in this game. Since you're filling a role, there's usually a role to fill, which means there's criticism that I often offer in RPGs, such as character consistency, motivation, is valid there. It would be silly, and as I said earlier, unfair, to use such a method of evaluation on a roguelike, because that's not the point of a roguelike. Now, this is not to say that RPGs cannot offer roguelike elements, and indeed many no doubt do, but long story short, I have a different criterion for different types of games. And actually, I don't want to assign any more numbers because it's not like I'm going through the game like checking off a list. I'm just experiencing a game, and these are the things I notice. So, no more numbers, just observations. There are a few things that will kill my interest faster than playability. A game needs to be easy to pick up and play, or I'll just leave. I often bring this issue up when it comes to games with difficult to use controls. I shouldn't need a PhD in Euclidean geometry to use the jump button. While some developers seem to think that complexity makes a combat system better, I'm just going to have to rain on that parade and inform you that it doesn't. If your game's controls are so difficult that you need to spend a good 30 minutes to an hour inside a tutorial room, maybe think about your controls again. While we're on that topic, the complexity of a gameplay should serve the player in allowing multiple styles of play. This is also a double-edged sword because players are lazy bastards. What developers might have intended as giving you options might turn into an effort in futility because the players will always find the easiest way to do a job. So, in my mind, a well-done gameplay system will permit many styles of play, but again, we need to keep the type of game in mind. A game like Dark Souls permits the use of many weapon styles and doesn't really have one way to complete the game, which opens up the game to many different styles of play. But good luck doing the catacombs first. Meanwhile, and I'm going to step on a few toes here, a game like Pokemon Red doesn't really permit too much in the way of variability. You're all but trapped into using whatever the enemy is weak against or being over-leveled compared to the enemy. The later games fix this by adding natures, abilities, move variability, using TMs more than once. But the criticism is valid for Pokemon Red. Dragon types were still super meta for way too long. Part of all games is the atmosphere, and the one thing that can really make or break an atmosphere is music. Music allows the developer to manipulate the player into feeling a certain way. I've recently watched The Wolf Children several times, and I love this movie. Some scenes are great by themselves, such as the snow scene where Hana, Ame, and Yuki are playing. It's just beautiful. Try watching it without music, and then try watching it with music. What you should find is that the music just adds this sheer euphoric delight and turns what would be a great scene into a phenomenal scene. And I have no doubt that you could also play with the lighting and music to turn that joyous scene into the prelude of something terrible. Managing the audio in your game to enhance the atmosphere and experience is pretty important to crafting a good game, and it's actually something that I think can rescue poor games. I like to rag on this a lot when it comes to games, especially RPG Maker games, because they're the worst offenders that I see. But the art style has to be consistent. Art style, any art that looks out of place is just very jarring to the gaze. And I'm going to be spending quite a few hours in this game, quite a few hours in this world that you've crafted. So if I have an eyesore in my line of sight for most of that time, I'm going to be saying, great, I have to go through this town again quite a few times, which may make me quit the game. So I don't, and while we're on that topic, I don't generally review games until I've finished them. I'll make exceptions. The game is too long. The game is shit. The game does not appear to have an ending. But I usually want to play to the credits. And this can often be inconvenient to a review release schedule, but it does give me one additional tool, my feelings. If at any point I find myself saying, Christ, is this game almost over? It signals to me that I'm not enjoying this game. And remember, first and foremost, a game should be fun. That's not to say that bad games can't be fun. They certainly can, and I think that's where we run into the player base creating their fun within the game. There's nothing wrong with this, though it may make it more difficult for me to rate a game positively. Now, I do add caveats in my reviews, recognizing that not all games are for everyone. And if you remember, I wrote a post a while ago, and I don't think I made a video, but I did write a post about how people review things on a scale of 1 to 10 incorrectly. Well, I don't use 1 to 10 incorrectly. So my bar for reviewing a game is positive, is average, or better. I know it means that I'll say you should buy most games, approximately half of them, but that's why you should take the rest of the review in context to see if that's something that you actually want to spend money on. Think of my reviews as a brief insight into the game that you can consider before buying them, rather than as a yes equals buy, no equals don't buy. Anyway, that'll be it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.